48-42, the Colorado Buffaloes win the first game of the Carl Durrell era. Both these teams putting up 90 points. That's exactly how we saw it, right, Brian?
Yeah, I
Exactly
mean,
what we thought was going to happen.
I think we both picked a shootout, didn't we? No. My score prediction was 50 points total, which would have been the under. I believe it was 56 and a half was the over under. I went under at 27-23. I picked a 4-point win. The Buffs won by 6, so I'm somewhat close there, but we were way off on how this was going to go.
Yeah, let's start with Sam Noyer. Well, first off, I will say this, Brian. I'll eat some crow about my prediction. I had UCLA winning 27-24.
Yeah.
If the folks that were criticizing Sam Noyer as aggressively as they were will take their heaping plate of crow as well. And we had reservations as well. You play off what you've seen from Sam Noyer in games before, and it hasn't been pretty. But as we talked about, he's never had the opportunity to start a game and have those reps in practice. And gosh, he sure looked like a confident quarterback out there, and just really love his mobility out there. And I think that's the reason that he's the starting quarterback for this team over Tyler Lytle right now.
Yeah, and I'm not going to sit here and act smug and say, well, we because I've said all along that, hey, don't judge him based off of what he's done in coming off the bench and mop up time. That it is different as a starting role. I'm not going to be smug about that because I had no idea what he was going to look like either. He surprised me. I didn't think he would look this good, but it goes to the point that it is different, and there's such a different mindset. Players can get better. It's so different when you are going in as the starting quarterback as opposed to you don't think you're going to play, and then all of a sudden it's raining in in Pullman and things aren't going well, and they're like, hey, get in there, Sam. So that's a little bit different. But he played better than I would guess almost everybody in Buff Nation thought he was going to play. He didn't throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns, but he managed this offense. And I go back to what Carl Durrell said when he named him as the starting quarterback. He said, operationally, Sam's doing a better job. And I would say he operated very well tonight. It wasn't the greatest stat night, but he operated that offense in a very efficient manner and led them to 48 points. That's pretty impressive. And there was points that were left off the board, I thought, too.
Yeah, obviously Sam Noyer's not going to go for over 300 yards of offense with no turnovers, and they're not going to have Jarek Broussard pile up over 200 yards of offense every week either. But you've got to assume that this defense is going to get better from this game, and so they're not going to necessarily need the performance that they got out of those two guys tonight. But tonight they needed it.
Yeah, they really did. And, let's first off say this is not a good UCLA defense. I mean, this has been one of the worst ones in the Pac-12, and they lost a lot of guys. So, give CU credit. They did what they had to do, but they're going to face better defenses than that. So you're right. They're not going to put up those numbers, but they needed all that because this defense, for the first half, I don't know about you, we were, I don't know how many feet away from each other, so we didn't talk during the game. But, for the first half, it's like, wow, this defense is really bringing it. Causing the turnovers, but they couldn't stop anybody, for much of that second half. So, they've got their issues there, and they needed every single one of those yards and points from Jarek and Sam.
And both Sam Noyer and Jarek Broussard are just great stories. Obviously, Sam Noyer almost left CU's program because he had been moved to safety with the previous staff. Jarek Broussard, to come back from 2 ACL injuries and look that explosive, really incredible story that he is. And when Darian Hagan said he reminds me of Speedy Stewart, I was like, okay, well, that says that Jarek's having a good camp. But Roddy Stewart, if it wasn't for that broken fibula that Von Miller actually caused him to have, he might have passed Eric Bieniemy as the all-time leading rusher in program history. I wasn't buying in on that. But after tonight, a lot of similarities in their running style and just how, and I was really impressed with Jarek Broussard's patience. There was many of those runs where when he got the ball, I didn't think he was going to be able to get back to the line of scrimmage, and he was able to get 3-4 yards. And then obviously he had some of the more explosive runs as well.
Yeah, no question. I mean, you and I were talking about it on the way out of the press box tonight that, there was a lot of questions tonight about, hey, the Buffs, they're missing their best running back. I don't think they were, and I like Alex Fontenot. I thought he played very well last season. I like how he runs. I think Jarek Broussard's a better running back. I mean, what I saw tonight out of Jarek Broussard was better than anything we saw last year. And to be honest with you, I think it's the best running back performance that we've seen from a CU back since Philip Lindsay. That was what, 2017, I believe it was. I think he's the best running back we've seen since Lindsey. I think he runs a little like that. He's a small guy that's powerful and plays bigger than his size. And I think he's gonna be fun to watch. I think he's gonna put up not big number, not almost 200 yards every week like you said, but I think he's got a chance to really put up some big numbers every week.
With the O-line, you're always going to nitpick a few plays here and there. The holding penalty on Tyler Lytle's one drive was a killer there, but generally those guys played really, really well. And Sam Noyer, in most occasions, had a lot of time back there. And just like we expected, they really spread the ball around to a lot of different targets on offense. Dimitri Stanley had a big first half, and it was great to see Daniel Arias have that big reception in the second half, because he's got all the skills. It's just getting a little bit of that confidence going in games is big. And then Brady Russell came up big today as well.
Yeah, and I was disappointed because I've been so high on Arias, and he has that drop in the first half. And I was surprised that Brendan Rice caught a pass before Arias did, but Arias had that nice big catch and really flashed his ability. I still think he's got a chance for a big season, and so I like what he can do. But you're right, they spread the ball all over the place, and Matt Lynch even caught a pass. I think it was from Lytle, but lots of different guys caught passes, and the Lytle situation was interesting, by the way. Bringing him in for that one drive. But we can talk about that if you want. But you're right. I mean, all those different weapons, we've heard about it, and it showed tonight.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because I do want to see Tyler Lytle out there in game situations, but as they say, timing is everything. You're rolling offensively, and Sam Noyer looked like he had just kind of really found his mojo. Just not the time to do that.
Yeah, and I had heard this week that that there was a plan already in place. They were going to put Tyler in the second quarter, and there was that drive that spilled over from the first to the second that Sam finished. But that first full drive of the second, there's Tyler, just like I had heard this week, and I was, and I was excited about that during the week because I want to see Tyler and I want to see Sam, but that was not the time to do that. I was really surprised they did that at that moment when Sam was playing so well, and it wasn't Tyler's fault. I don't think that they didn't score on that drive. You're right. I mean, you mentioned the holding penalty kick things off. That puts him behind the sticks right away. But they quickly the next drive put Sam back in there, and he played the rest of the game. He played great, and I hope Tyler Lytle gets a chance to put up something better than what we saw tonight, like more opportunity. But that was just not the best situation to put him in.
Defensively, a lot of issues there. The plus side, very opportunistic, and UCLA turns the ball over 4 times in the first half, and that's why Colorado won their first game under Carl Durrell. I would imagine that front side is going to get better. They obviously had the big 4th down stop that pretty much clinched it, although UCLA did come back a little bit and they had the onside kick there. But that group's going to get better. Carson Wells with the interception. Obviously, you're disappointed, but again, I don't think that you're going to see this type of performance out of them going forward.
Yeah, I think they'll get better. I did like the way they were opportunistic. Carson Wells, I thought, played a really good game overall, and that interception was really, a great play by him. He tips it to himself. So great play by him. They were opportunistic. You and I talked about it at halftime. If you would have asked at halftime, okay, which quarterback's making his first career start and which one is a 3-year starter, it was total opposite. I mean, Dorian Thompson-Robinson looked awful and looked like he'd never played a college football game in the first half. And, he rebounded in the second. But Sam was the better quarterback tonight, and I'm surprised by that.
I'm sure some guys are going to get called out in the meeting room because the middle of the field was open on numerous occasions. UCLA's tight ends feasted on the Buffs tonight. And, imagine that's an assignment error because no defensive coordinator is trying to have that happen out there.
Yeah, and you look at the schedule, and they're supposed to face Stanford next week, and who employs the tight end better than anybody in this conference than Stanford? So Stanford's got to be looking at that, saying, "Huh, all right, that might be something we can throw in there." But yeah, that was certainly an area of the field that UCLA found a weakness, and they exploited it quite a bit.
This secondary is going to be good, but just because we saw Mark Perry play some at the end of last year, it doesn't make this an experienced group. Darian Rakestraw is the one guy back there, and even he has had to work his way into being, a full-time starter out there. Christian Gonzalez has got the skill set. He got picked on a little bit tonight, but he's going to learn from this experience. I think he's going to be an all-conference NFL type guy down the road, but sometimes you take those lumps. It took a Kenneth Crawley till late in his career, and I don't think it's going to take Christian Gonzalez that long. Don't get me wrong, but these are all learning experiences for him. Chris Miller got banged up. You really, really hope that's nothing serious, because he just has had the worst luck with injuries.
Yeah, and we did get to see Isaiah Lewis. I thought Isaiah Lewis played really well tonight when he was in there.
But we know why he's a defensive back, not a receiver.
Yes, we do. But he played well. I mean, he had several pass breakups. I think he had 3 or 4 tonight, which I'm not sure there were many performances like that throughout the whole season last year by a DB. So he played really well. But yeah, I hope Chris Miller will be okay. Christian Gonzalez, his couple pass interference penalties, just not turning around for the ball. But the one thing you like is he was right there. He was always stride for stride with the receiver. It's just more of, Mike McIntyre used to talk about, the key to playing DB is how you finish. It's okay to run stride for stride with him, but how you finish the play. Christian's not quite there, but I imagine he's going to get there.
And there was the one PI that was on him where it was an underthrown ball. Even the best cornerbacks, I mean, you're pretty much put in an impossible position. And that's why I've always hated, if the ball's underthrown and the receiver has to come back, why are we penalizing the defensive back in that situation? He's doing his job, and he can't have eyes in the back of his head. And I know you try to have instincts to turn your head, but that's something that all cornerbacks struggle with. And that's why, we've seen offenses evolve into these high scoring machines, because situations like that where you're just at a disadvantage as a defense.
Yeah, and that's one, like you said. I mean, Christian's going to get better from that, but I mean, that was a tough one for him. I did notice, UCLA after both those penalties went right back at him, and they didn't complete the pass. Christian, made a play, or something happened where it was incomplete, but they tried to go back at him. I don't remember. I'd have to go back and using the cliche, watch the tape, but I don't remember Christian giving up a big pass. He did have the penalties, but I don't remember him giving up a really huge play. So good for him on that. But and if I missed it, I apologize. But I thought overall this secondary certainly showed some growing pains. I think they're going to get better from now to the end of the season, though.
And speaking of Chris Miller, who's had to battle with injuries, James Stefano, apparently he's nicked again. He missed, well, he had one of his kicks blocked, the other, which was a 50-plus yarder, missed, and then they brought in Evan Price. He made 2 in a row before having his final one blocked. Hopefully James Stefano bounces back from this, because he's had to deal with so much. But one of those players that just seems to be kind of, have ongoing issues, and you just hope they get some good luck finally.
Yeah, and for him, this sounds bad, but I almost hope that he's a little nicked and that he wasn't just benched. I don't want him to be injured, of course, but I know he's worked so hard to get healthy, and it'd be a shame if one game into a senior year he gets benched because he missed a couple field goals. And hopefully it's one of those injuries that bothers him tonight, and then he's back, because I do think he's a good kicker. I think that tonight it's tough making a 51-yarder. He's hit him. He's got the leg for it. I've seen him hit him in warm-ups and practice. That's a tough situation. And, the block, I don't know if that's his fault or not, but then another one's blocked later. So clearly there's some issues there with protection. So it's hard to put that on him. And you just hope he gets back. But either way, I think they got 2 good kickers, and they're okay in that spot.
Katie Nixon went through warm-ups, looked pretty good running around out there, but did not play. Carl Durrell said that he's close to 100%. He had just missed a lot of practice time this preseason. So I don't know if he'll be back next week, but it sounds like he's progressing there. I saw Josh Gines in there at center in the second half. I don't know if something happened to Colby Purcell. We didn't have time to talk about that. Were there any other injuries out there tonight?
I don't remember beyond that. Chris Miller was kind of the big one, and then I don't remember beyond that. But obviously Alex Fontenot didn't play. I didn't see him out there at all. Did you?
No.
So I don't know if he was not well enough to be standing or anything like that. But certainly hope he gets back. But I don't remember any other injuries tonight. Cannon Ray didn't play either.
Janaz Jordan was out as well.
Yeah. So
You see that every year, though, in preseason camp. Guys are going to get nicked up, and unfortunately for Alex Fontenot, he was the one that had the major injury. But in 2020, with COVID and everything, I was almost surprised they had as many projected starters out there, ready to go.
Yeah, in fact, the only guy, correct me if I'm wrong, but the only guy from the two deep that we didn't see out there at all was Tariq Luckett. I couldn't find him anywhere out there, which you can't really speculate. Maybe it was a COVID situation. I don't know, but you know, at the number 2 corner spot in warmups, it was KJ Trujillo, who's been moved to safety, but he's sitting there at number 2 corner. So hopefully Tariq's back soon as well.
What did you feel about the atmosphere in there? The few parents that were in there, they got loud a couple times there in the second half, but the fake crowd noise just kind of threw me off a little bit.
You know, actually, I'll be honest with you. Once the game started, I never really noticed it, and for me, so the ambient noise, whatever it was, it felt somewhat normal because I just kind of was either looking at my paper or looking down the field. I never really thought about it. What was weird about it was, when they'd go to like timeout, they shut it off. All of a sudden, it's like this crowd noise, and all of a sudden, it's just silent, and that was kind of weird. So, it was a little interesting but weird. But I didn't really notice it a ton.
It was great back covering a game, but I think every week you're gonna do your job and go minute by minute, because obviously there was 2 Pac-12 games that were canceled this weekend, and
Yeah.
we see what's happening across this country with the COVID cases. It makes you really nervous about this season going forward, but all you can do again is go day by day, hour by hour.
Yeah, and that's honestly a big reason for those watching that you and I are doing this like this instead of doing a video when we were both in the stadium here tonight. So we just felt it was maybe a little bit safer to do it this way, and didn't want to put anybody unnecessarily at risk. But yeah, you're right. We're supposed to go to Stanford. The bus is supposed to go to Stanford next week. I'm supposed to go to Stanford. I have no idea if I will or not. And we saw a reporter from Arizona that yesterday tweets out, "Well, guess I'm not flying to Salt Lake City." Probably an hour or so before he was leaving for the airport. That could happen to me next week. I have no idea, but it'll be interesting to see if we get 7 games in, or 6 or 5, or however many we get.
All right, Colorado 1-0. We'll be back with more analysis on Monday.